Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another roadmap stream. Hold on a minute, I need to unmute you, Matt. Oh, no, you should be unmuted. Say hello.
Am I muted? Hello? Can
Hello,
everyone
can we
hear
do
me?
a
Just
quick
some muted
sound
people.
check?
Tell me if I've
I'm
been
on a
muted.
new computer and it's the first time pushing the buttons on it. Let us know if you can hear us, if we're too loud, if we're too quiet. I mean, I'm not seeing anybody saying they can't hear us yet, so yeah. No,
AV is good, says Derek.
that's what I like to hear. How are you tonight, Matt?
I'm good. Had a long day, many meetings, and I've been playing a certain route today, which I've been enjoying.
Are you allowed
So,
to say which route?
well, it's kind of in the sort of Midwest area
Okay, okay.
of America, with yellow trains.
That narrows it down. So yes, we have another roadmap stream. I haven't been on one of these for a while. I think Sam did the last few while I was moving. And yes, I'm basically in the room. If you can hear an echo, it's not the microphone. It's just the room is kind of empty. So yeah, sorry
Still
if
not put any carpet down.
there's no carpet. It's why it sounds like, well,
The toilet, basically.
yes, there we go. Yes, it sounds like.
That's
Thank
what
you.
everyone's saying.
Yeah, that's why. So yeah. Now, today's roadmap wasn't necessarily the most exciting one we've ever had, and there hasn't been too much movement. There hasn't been too many additions. What's going on with that, Matt? How come it's not a lovely, exciting roadmap with lots of new shiny things?
Well, we can't have new shiny things every time we update the roadmap. And we've also, one of the things that we've found from experience in the past is don't announce things too early.
Yeah.
Wait for the right time to announce things so that we can sort of say more about it, but also talk authoritatively about it, rather than things potentially being in the roadmap for too long, or moving around all over the place. So. Basically, it's there's stuff going on. There's plenty of stuff going on. We'll let you know when it's the right time,
Yeah.
and there'll be some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we do still have plenty to talk about tonight. There's some interesting information shared on today's roadmap. Obviously, we mentioned that Sherman Hill has been moved up. I don't think that really came as much of a surprise, though. How's it looking?
Oh, so good, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a great looking route, and yeah, it's tremendous to see. It was one I quite enjoyed on TS1, so the fact that I get to use it on TSW is even better.
Excellent. I mean, I haven't actually had a chance to play it yet, so I'll have to take your word on that one. Now, we actually didn't introduce ourselves to the community as well. I know that a lot of people already know who we are, but obviously I haven't been on for a while. So I'm the community manager here at Dovetail Games. I tend to look after the Train Sim World 2 things, and usually I'm on the roadmap streams these days. But obviously Sam has been looking after it for me. And what do you do here, Matt?
Coffee mostly.
Coffee. Yeah.
But no, I'm the executive producer for Train Sim World, and so I'm looking after the direction of the product, looking after the team, the projects that are being built, the features that we want to put into the game, and herding the kittens of all of those things and making things hopefully come out at some point.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully at some point.
I'm not doing anything actually constructive. All the rest of the people in the team, they're amazing to do that. I'm basically here trying to help.
Now, Thelonious has said, is Sherman Hill coming out on Thanksgiving? Do I need to cancel my holiday plans? Thelonious, I think I'm not actually going to give you the release date today. I'm not able to do that. It's coming soon. And actually, you're going to get a first look on Thursday. There's a preview stream on Thursday, isn't there, Matt?
There is.
Yeah. For anybody that missed the updated schedule, the Sherman Hill is going to be previewed on Thursday, and then tomorrow, instead of Workshop Wednesday, there's going to be a 187 preview on Train Simulator.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Now, shall we go? Should we dig into what the nitty gritty of this roadmap?
Yeah, let's do that.
let's go. Let's start with obviously the movement. We've talked about how Sherman Hill's been moved up, but equally Horseshoe Curve has been moved down. Now this is obviously being developed by Skyhook Games. This isn't the first time we've moved things down in a roadmap, but it can often appear, I think, concerning when things go down, or it can appear like things aren't going to plan. What's the score with this? Do you know why it would have been moved down, or do you have any information that you can share about why something gets moved down?
There are a number of things. I mean, it's not that something's going wrong. Far from it. This is the process working really well, actually. We're trying to work a lot more closely with third-party developers to give them more support and guidance, so that we can, get things at the level we all want it to be at. And Horseshoe Curve is going to be such an amazing route. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. So one of the things that's come up is that the original plan for developing Horseshoe Curve was along similar lines to how Sandpatch grade and so forth in terms of formation lengths, and Sherman is going to have long trains. More prototypical length trains, and it's like, well, we don't want then Horseshoe Curve to come out with short trains. So there's a little bit of rethinking going on to make sure that Horseshoe Curve lines up with sort of what Sherman is going to be doing. And then there are some other challenges with the audio, which they're working their way through, with the physics, which are going to help them with, and so forth. The route itself is coming along really nicely, but Skyhook actually suggested looking at pushing the route back a little bit, just to give it more time to hit the right quality level. And I think that was absolutely the right call. So that's why that one's moved back. But that's not right. That's not things going wrong. This is the process working really well.
Yeah. And Bradley actually said it sounds boring to me. Now, that's sometimes the case, isn't it? Like, not everybody likes freight, not everybody likes passenger routes. We try to offer a variety, don't we?
Yeah. There are even some really, really strange people out there that don't like shunting. It's I don't understand, but here you are. But the nice thing about trains is that there's such a diversity of things you can do, things you can be interested in, so we like to offer something for everyone.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Now that is actually it for things that have moved. That is the entirety of the movement. But obviously we've got some new additions to the roadmap this week, and I think one of the most asked about additions we should just get on with now, which is obviously the PlayStation 5 fixes. Now, we've talked about this before tonight's stream, and I'm going to ask you to try and explain why it's been listed as part 1 and part 2, and what exactly these updates will include. But can you try and explain it in English, if you can?
Yes. So, I mean, first of all, the part 1, part 2 thing might change to just being a part 1 and nothing else. Meaning, as in, we'll just wait and do part 2 as everything. So there are things that will move and change on this plan, but let me explain what part 1 and part 2 would be if it went ahead with that plan. The problem that we're trying to solve, just to start at step 1, is that on PlayStation 5, players are limited to 64 gigabytes of mounted DLC. I'll come back to that word mount in a minute.
Yeah.
So what that means, because the game will mount everything by default, which is why you've never had to do this before. What you end up with is, if you've bought everything, there are people out there that own everything that you can get, or large quantities of it, then there's a very good chance you're over 64 gigabytes, because the total collection runs to about 100, I think, at the moment. The whole collection is well over 64 gigabytes. This was a recent addition to PlayStation 5 that came in an update, and what happened, what you experience as a player in that instance, is that some of your routes just didn't load. They just don't show up anymore in the UI. You own them and they're downloaded, but they're just not showing up in the game. And it's because it's loading the first 64 gigabytes of files and then just stopping and not loading anymore. So that's the problem.
Yes.
what the current solution the players are using is to uninstall, delete it off their system if they're not playing it right now, which will then sort of get them back under the 64 gigabytes so they can download perhaps the thing that they really want to play right now. But
Yeah.
obviously that's a total pain. No
Yeah, I
one
was
wants
gonna say that's really time consuming as well. It's inconvenient, and not to mention there's probably some people that have download limits as well, so it's not
And
ideal.
you might just have 64 gigabytes of stuff that you want to keep.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's
Yep.
I know there are some people I've seen talking that have literally, if they start uninstalling more stuff at this point, then the stuff that they've got for substitutions and layers and so forth, it starts impinging on that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's it's a challenging problem. So Scott Strudwick actually asked a good question. Doesn't Call of Duty work at like over 100?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, very good question. So I've seen that asked a few times of people saying, well, come on now, these games are all over 64 gigs. Why are you limited to 64 gigs? The core game is not limited at all. That can be as big as you want it to be. DLC is what's limited.
So is this all right? So the core can be as big as we like,
Yes.
but obviously we sell and we offer a lot of DLC.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So where our core game is, I don't know, 20 gigabytes or so, which is effectively to install the game, you have to download the core, so you get 20 gigabytes. And we did try some experiments actually with moving large quantities of the DLC into the core area, which wouldn't grant it for free or anything. It would still go through ownership checks and so forth. But by moving it into the core, you could potentially work around this limit.
Yeah.
The downside is everyone has to download it, whether they own it or not, and it takes up space whether you own it or not. And that just feels bad, but maybe it was a short-term solution. It just didn't work the way we're expecting it to, so we abandoned going any further with that research. So we're left at a situation where, at this point in time, PlayStation 5 owners have an uncomfortable issue with this problem. So our solution is based on this word, mounting. So when a DLC is downloaded, that's not necessarily the case that it's available to the game. And so what happens automatically at the moment is the game looks for everything and auto mounts everything. And what we want to do is decouple that. Now, what does mounting do?
Yeah.
Mounting takes if you imagine that all of your DLCs are boxes.
Yep.
Right? Mounting opens the box. Right? And the limit of limit on the PS5 is how much volume of box can you have open essentially. So where by default the game tries to open every box that you've got on your desk essentially. What we are looking at doing is making it only mount the stuff that you need for the route that you're selected to. So if you pick Great Western Express, for example, then it will only open the box for the Great Western Express route and related DLC that we think is appropriate. You know, the most likely things you're going to want to run on that route. It will mount it'll open the box for those ones and mount them as well.
So, for example, let's say you're running Great Western Express. It's not going to open something like Cane Creek.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it won't open those any of those other things. Now, the side benefit from that is it also then won't be taking up memory, because the way that Unreal works, the minute you have a DLC, once it mounts that DLC, Unreal will actually have the index to that DLC in memory.
Yeah.
So it's surprising how big some of those indexes can be in memory as well. So what that means is that as the more control you have over what you open. So if you only open, say, 3 or 4 things when you open Great Western Express, then that baseline memory usage will drop potentially quite significantly. So there's a side benefit here, which I'm not going to make any promises over, but it's kind of like this is something we're going to explore that means that baseline memory usage might go down, and it might actually help some of these memory issues as well. And there is also related to that, some people have said, well, the 64 gig thing, and also this baseline memory usage, does it not impose a theoretical limit on how much you can have?
Yes.
Well, this solves that problem as well, because it doesn't matter how much DLC you've got downloaded onto your system, you've only got the bits you're using right now essentially loaded.
Okay.
So the worst it could do is constrain how much you can have right now, and if you've got that much loaded, you've got too much.
Now I have a couple of questions that have cropped up from the chat in relation to this, if you've got the answers. So first off, from Gareth Hubble, how will this affect off the rails mode in Scenario Planner? Because obviously I imagine if you've got Great Western Express open, and like I said, it's not going to open Cane Creek, are you still able to use that feature, or is that something you don't know about yet?
So this is the difference between part 1 and part 2.
Okay, we haven't got
and
to part 2
yet. It's one of the
yet.
reasons. Well, it's a good time to bring it up.
Yep.
And this is one of the reasons that it may just be done as one hit.
Okay.
Because as part one is purely about fixing the underlying issue, getting the auto mounting done, so that when you get the route list up on the screen, you select a route off it, and then it will do the mounting of the bits of DLC. Now, mounting is near instant; it doesn't take very long at all. So there's not really any extra delays, load times, and so forth, because you would have already been mounting everything previously. So in theory, you're mounting less now. So if there is a delay, it'll be less of a delay, if anything. But it really doesn't amount to much at the end of the day. And that would be part 1, so there'd be no user interface to it. It'd just be all automatic. And in that instance, yes, that's correct. You would not be able to use off the rails. Off the rails mode will work, but anything that's not in the default set of mounts won't be available. It just the game doesn't even know it's there at that point if it's not mounted. So what
this is part 1.
Brings, that's part 1. So what part 2 brings is the ability to add a setting screen, so that you can then manually mount or unmount anything you like. Along with a little, say, thermometer bar or something, which says, out of your 64 gigabytes, you've currently used 15 gigabytes, and so you can say, well, add that, right, we've used 25 gigabytes now. Good, I've got my GP38, let's load Bakerloo up and have some fun. So you'll be you get that flexibility back, so you can control exactly what's loaded into memory. Which, again, side benefit to that is if you don't like Clinchfield SD40s turning up on Sandpatch grade, unmount Clinchfield.
I see. Now, obviously, I'm wondering if you've got this sort of scale where you can decide what you want to mount and unmount, will that cost memory? Will that be quite hard for? Will that cause downloads, or is it just a case of it won't work or it will work?
Oh, there's no downloads. Everything is already downloaded onto your system anyway. So literally all you're doing is opening and closing the box. The box is already there on your desk, and all you're doing is opening and close it. It should be a really slick long-term solution that actually solves and improves a number of things, as well as working around this problem. Now, one of the things we need to one of the things being evaluated at the moment is it acceptable for a brief window where off the rails is less useful to people, than it is right now, or do we wait and just do it all on phase 2, and just release it at that point? And some of that's down to timing and so on and so on. So we're still looking at all that stuff. We've done proof of concepts for mounting and unmounting, so we know the tech works. The core, really important bit of this seems to work fine. So now it's about getting the rest of it in, and we can see how that pans out.
No.
But so we're still investigating. So at this point, whether it's the part 1 thing first and then the part 2 thing later, or whether we just do the whole thing in one go later, that's one of the things we're looking at the minute.
So we have listed it as part 1 and part 2, and we'll keep everybody updated as and when they look like they're going to be rolled out. Now, the chat have actually asked, what do Sony think about this? Because obviously, Sony have implemented this limit. You've actually been in conversations with Sony, haven't you, Matt?
Yeah, we've had some conversations with Sony. They were a bit surprised that we broke their limit on day 1. And not just broke it, but smashed it to smithereens. So they are looking into it, and it may be that there's the change probably what it would do is improve. It would be a year from now, the 64 might become 128 or 256, and it's like, a year from now is no use to us right now. So we still need another solution, but also, it's unless the limit is gone, it's always going to be a problem at some point. Yeah, so that still leaves us needing to find a better solution.
And I believe you just mentioned something about us being the only ones to have met this limit so far.
I believe, no one's anywhere near us in terms of the level of mountable DLC. Most DLCs are relatively small, and in fact, in a lot of cases, all they do is turn something on or off in the core, or they'll add a map file, for example. Whereas our DLCs are quite substantial, and there's quite a few of them.
Tintin has asked, are they also helping on the trophy situation? Now, we do actually have some updates, don't we, with regards to the achievements, specifically for Sherman Hill.
So Sherman Hill will have achievements on all platforms, yes. We are still reviewing the best way forward with regards to achievements. So for those that aren't aware, again, this is a PS5 issue. PS5 is it's brought some challenges. It's a fantastic platform, but it's brought some challenges that we will work through. PS5 has what they call a 50 group limit, and a group. We're using the groups for each DLC. So each DLC is assigned an achievement or trophy group, and then we put the trophies for that group in there. And a group has a maximum budget you can spend in terms of like the amount of points it awards and so forth. So it's just how it's intended to be used. We're not misusing that system. But they weren't expecting to have 50 bits of DLC that have trophies on them. Because oftentimes it's a car or something, and you don't put trophies with things like that. So again, we're still in talks with Sony to find out what the options are there. Can they increase the limit? Can you already increase the limit? Mm-hmm. See, on PS4 they have a different system, and again it has a limit, but you can have the PS4 works in a thing called a trophy file, TRP file, and you can have as many TRP files as you want.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hit the limit, you just spin up a new file, and you start putting things in there. And TSW has 3 of those files. So we've already pushed that quite a lot.
Our advice as well, I believe, at the moment is keep asking us about achievements before any route is released, and we will make sure that whether or not they're going to be available on a route by route basis, and we'll also make sure you're well aware before anything releases as well. We're not gonna tell you like on day one. We will ensure that you know this information beforehand. But obviously, this is also brought into question. Will any of these mounting changes on PlayStation 5, is it applicable to anything on like PlayStation 4? Can you use the same technology on PlayStation 4, or is it a specific PlayStation 5 only feature that you're able to do this on?
So our priority is to get this working and out there on PS5 first, because everybody else is fine. They're enjoying the game. PS5 are actively being limited by this. So we don't want to let anything get in the way of fixing that and getting everybody back playing all of their content. We do want to explore then what we can do on other platforms, because all the other platforms have this same concept of mounting. So ideally, we would then look at expanding that out to all the other console platforms. Doesn't apply to PC.
Okay.
So it's it doesn't apply to PC, because PC doesn't really have this idea of mounting and unmounting. The files are just in a folder. Mm-hmm. Whereas the way the consoles work is different. So that'll work there. Now enough, I'm pretty sure the Xbox has this concept of mounting as well. So we're looking at what we can do, but we need to get PS5 working first, and not let anything sparkly and shiny get in the way of that.
And Matt Jamka asked, why did Sony introduce the 64GB limit? Did they tell you? I mean, did they tell us anything, or is this just a limit?
I've got no idea why
Yeah.
the 64 gig limit in there. It's not been mentioned. It's yeah, it'll probably be deep down in some hardware somewhere. They reference an amount and it's stored in something that's of 64 gig is a very computer number, which
Right.
suggests that it's indexed by a number stored somewhere that can count up to 64 gigabytes. Yeah, that's possibly for performance and optimization. That's usually why you have an index in there, which is probably one of the things that makes it, because the PS5 is really, really fast at accessing stuff off the SSD, and it may be that that's one of the things that supports that. I don't know, is the answer to that. I'm making it up right now.
And Studio said release part 1 ASAP. I'm pretty sure that's already the plan, to release it as soon as it's ready, is it not, Matt?
Yeah, obviously we're not going to hang around if we have
Yeah.
something that works, but we also want to make sure we take some time to. There's a risk of causing other problems if we're not careful in terms of we're messing with the sort of bits of the code that haven't been touched. In fact, this is core Unreal even, I think, actually.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that it works. So get it through a proper testing process. So the QA team at the moment are starting to put together a rigorous testing plan for it, while the coding work, engineering work is being done right now. Like I said, some of it's already, all the prototype for it's been done. So we're getting the engineering done at the minute, and when we have something which is secure and working,
Yeah.
then we can look at getting something out and we can give you more information.
Okay. Well, I think we've given everybody quite a lot of information with regards to that tonight. So progress is being made. It's just it's taking its time, and you want to make sure you're doing it right.
Yeah, somebody actually said the message has gone off the top of my screen now. It sounds like someone said it sounds like it will break substitution. The part 1 would. Well, no, actually, it wouldn't. So the idea is that what we will do is maintain a list for each route and all of the DLC that are relevant and appropriate, which would include all the ones we set up for substitution. So even without the ability to manually load and unload, like a German route will mount all of the other German routes and all the German locos. Yeah, and a UK route will load all the the relevant UK locos and so forth, and the other routes and so forth. So the idea is that by default layers and substitution should work smoothly because we can predict that. What we can't predict is I want to put a GP38 on Bakerloo line. I keep saying it, so I don't know why we can't predict it, but it's so the idea is because the total off the rails solutions, like if someone wants to run an ICE on Southeastern High Speed, for example, that's those kinds of situations. The true off the rails ones, they're the ones where the part 1 would have a problem, but the whole solution doesn't. The whole solution puts it all back to working the way it's supposed to be again, and puts you fully in control, more in control than you are right now.
Yeah. Now, Strike Eagle has said, I haven't been taking notes. Will there be a test at the end of the stream? And then
Yes.
Baked Bean Kid has said, I don't understand. Can you repeat everything that was said? So what I'm going to do is, because I think we've just covered an awful lot of information, and it's quite a lot for everybody to digest. And obviously not everybody watches these streams. So tomorrow or this week, I will write up what you've said to the best of my ability, and I'll get it posted on the forums so that everybody can sort of stay up to date with basically what you've just shared. And hopefully it'll make more sense when it's written down as well. I mean, I say that you wrote it out to me and I struggled to understand it. But yeah, I'll get something written up, and I'll get Matt to translate it into English for us as well, because I think that's worthwhile having on the forums there. Will this write-up have pictures? It will not. Right.
But we'll talk about shunting, Baked Bean Kid, so look forward to it.
Now, shall we continue with the rest of the roadmap? Because that actually took up a bit more time than I anticipated it would. It was a lot to cover there. Now, can we talk about the other updates actually that are going to be happening since Rush Hour? Because we touched on it briefly in the Rush Hour article, in the roadmap article, and obviously one of the points we've still got in upcoming is, I think it's something to do with the Rush Hour. Can you talk about um, the Xbox texture glitch and what's happened there?
Yeah, so we did as you were aware, we did the the first fix for the Xbox texture glitch, and it fixed most of the cases of it. So
Yeah.
previously, it would down-res all of the textures, particularly if you're driving at high speed, but not always. It could be in other cases as well, and you'd be driving with really blurry textures. And once they'd gone bad, they generally would stay bad. So the first fix that has been done already massively improved that, to where they don't stay broken, and they're only every now and again they glitch bad, but it still didn't fix it fully.
Yeah.
So it went back into the engineering team, and they've had another pass at it. And as I understand it, the next core update, which is with Sherman Hill, will have part 2 of that fix, which I believe cures it fully.
Yes. I remember when you found out it was still broken, you were a bit baffled for a minute because you thought you had it that first time.
Yes, and I spent some more time playing on the Series X myself, and then reproduced the issue and showed the engineer, how it was still occurring. Because the thing is, if you just doing a quick test, previously it would happen all the time, whereas now it's just like you drive for like 20 minutes. Oh, there it is. It is still happening, and if you've got to be watching it the whole time as well, you're not just waiting for it to go bad and you look back over. So when you're playing the game, it's fine, but quite often when you're trying to reproduce an issue like that, it's sometimes you can have multiple things going on and not spot, especially a momentary glitch like that. So I was able to show them it, and they had another look at it. So yeah, they were surprised as well, but they believe they've cured it now.
And obviously, while we're talking about rush hour, it's obviously brought into question the London commuter. We've got people going, can we talk about London commuter? What about the instability of London commuter? When a London commuter get the rush hour passengers? So first of all, there's an update for London commuter coming as well, isn't there? And can you explain what problem you found?
Yeah, so this fixes one particular issue that everybody has been experiencing, which is, there's more than this, but the most common occurrence of it is in the first service mode in the journey. You'll drive, I think, a Gatwick train from Victoria to Brighton, and when you arrive at Brighton and open the doors, it crashes. So we figured out what that is. That was an error in the platform configuration, that when you opened the doors, the characters would try and spawn, and when they try and spawn, what they do is, the first thing they do is work out, where am I going? And there was nothing set up for them to go to. For some reason, even though there were exits on the station, they would get nothing back as their list of valid places to go, and freak out, essentially.
which would cause the crash.
Yes, indeed. So I think there's some extra robustness being added to stop the freak out causing the crash, and also we've looked at the content, fixed the content, so that that won't do it either. So hopefully we're cured on both fronts on that now. So that should resolve a fairly common cause of crash on Brighton on every platform, pretty much. That wasn't a memory issue. We wondered if it was, and it isn't. That was actually a setup issue that's been resolved. So, and that's the one that's coming in the next update.
And obviously, are there still plans to have other optimizations to London commuter? Because I imagine that's not going to fix absolutely everything.
No, it's not going to fix everything. There are different classes of problem. It's like sometimes you can have multiple causes of crash, the multiple causes of performance problems. We've got another fix which isn't in the next update, because when we tried to apply it, it caused other problems. So we backed it out so that we can find out what the problems are and do it properly. And that's related to all of the third rails have a collision volume. Which means, so if you go down to the track, you'll find that you can get stuck on the third rails, rather than you should just be walking through them. And all of those collision volumes, well, not only are they a pain in the neck because you get kind of stuck sometimes, but they're going to be taking up CPU. doing collision detection and so forth. So, and memory, because their collision volumes, they're not free, they're not expensive either, but there's a lot of third rail on the entirety of London Brighton line. So these things all add up. So we are looking at how we can get that off. And then fix the thing that went wrong. I don't exactly know what happened, what went wrong when they did that, but getting rid of the collision volumes caused other problems. So that's not coming in the next update. I don't know when it is, but it is one of the other ones that's coming.
And then obviously once these improvements have been made to London Commuter, do you have the intention of eventually adding the rush hour passengers to London Commuter?
Once we're stable, and it looks good, we will absolutely tick that box and turn them back on again. And we'll do that as soon as we can. So we've done, I think, since release, we've done another update to London Brighton. It's just about every core update that's gone out.
Yeah, we've had quite a lot of them.
Out.
Yeah,
and it's improved the situation a bit each time. And this one that fixes the crash into Brighton should again improve things. So we're keeping an eye on. So every time you get a crash on console, for example, we've got a dashboard on the Sony provider dashboard, Microsoft provider dashboard, where we see all of those crashes and they're all graphed and categorized, so we can see how many there are in each one of those things, and we can look at the crash and compare that one, find out what happened in the crash and so forth. And that was, I think this one at Brighton was the #1 cause of crashes in the system, which is why it got priority to get fixed as soon as possible. With each update, we're monitoring the feedback that the systems are giving us. So if you ever get the option to send a crash or not send a crash, send it. Don't hold them back.
Yeah. Now, I think we should also probably talk about the Arosa Linny timetable update, because that's obviously one of the hot topics on this week's roadmap. So we've been in really close communication with Rivet with regards to this. Adam and his team have been as well. We've all been working really closely to try and get it resolved. And I think it is also worth clearing up that in the roadmap, I believe it's worded as, this is in direct response to feedback received from the players. Now, I think this has sort of been misunderstood slightly in that it's like we're saying that it's been done quickly as a response to the players, whereas it's not. This is being updated because of the feedback from the players. We are not denying that it's taken a long time to get to this point, hasn't it, Matt? We accept that it shouldn't have really taken this long to get this update, but we have made some progress, and I do have some information about what was causing the problem and what the fix will entail. So one of the big ones was obviously that the AI trains were going incredibly quickly down the hill. And apparently this was to do with the physics not being able to cope with the gradients. And it has since been fixed. They've resimulated the timetable, and the AI trains operate apparently a lot better now. I was told that apparently there's 2 different types of physics as well. So apparently there's physics for AI trains, and then there's physics for the player trains. Yep. So the player train was fine going down the hill because that was working as it was supposed to, whereas the AI one was being a bit zoomy, and so it was that's the technical term, and as a result, it was messing up the timetable for everyone. I'm sure you're able to explain it slightly more technically than I am, Matt.
To be honest, that sums it up perfectly.
That sums it up perfectly. There you go. Rivet have, like I said, they've been working really closely with our team, and they should be able to get a fix out for that really soon. I've actually been told that I'm allowed to tell you that it'll be coming out before Christmas, so that's great. And then there's actually 2 separate issues that have been going on. The other one, I'm not even sure what the cause of the other one was, if I'm being completely honest.
So the next one is about signals.
Oh, that's it.
So the problem with one of the things that we improved. So One of
Yeah.
the things you'll have seen a number of times, potentially, is where you're driving along and you'll just get a random train has passed a signal of danger. And it's not you because you're near a green light. Well, it's because all this nonsense about spadding, and it's actually an AI train that spadded, is what that means. And what that has been caused, and there's two or three things that have come off of this, but what it's caused by is just the precision with which the AI drivers were stopping at lights, had some problems that meant that if there were frame drops or anything that got in the way, then it might miss a cycle and put you one frame after the red light, essentially. Or I'll put the AI train one frame after the red light, which is where you'd then end up with a problem. So the drivers have been educated a bit better, and they now stop a bit more in advance of the red light instead of playing it fast and loose with stops at red lights.
Isn't it quite unforgiving on Arosa as well with where the red lights are?
Yeah, it's unforgiving, and particularly if you're coming down a hill, it can be, it's a challenge. So if you've got these AI trains shooting down hills, and this doesn't just affect Arosa though. It's that this underlying change with how AI trains pull up to stations is a core behaviour for timetables using that kind of using that particular version of the system. So what we've done, made it where they pull up a bit further away from the signal, which caused problems for Arosa because of how tight things are. Now trains that were fitting previously no longer fit, particularly for the runarounds. So that's caused some extra challenges, but they've worked through that now, and I believe they've got that working. And it's just about, because a signal in TSW, when you set up the signals, you can say what the draw-up distance is on a per signal basis. So where everything had the default distance, they've now taken some of these signals and dialed them down so that the AI can pull up closer, but it's still going to be further away than the 1 millimeter that it was previously when it stopped, and that seems to be curing that problem, I think. So they're making good progress using some of these updated things, and so I'm hoping we'll see that shortly.
Dr. Bart 147 said there are two types of physics that'll be news to most scientists. Yeah, so the way it works is, right, the player trains, please correct me if I'm wrong, have a more advanced and more detailed type of physics set up on the train, whereas the AI ones have a very simplistic type of physics, because otherwise the game wouldn't be able to handle it, or at least that's what I was told.
So you've heard this phrase simulgraph, the name simulgraph being bandied around a lot. Simulgraph is super advanced player train physics. And then we have AI train physics, which is much, much simpler. It's still better than it has been previously. So it's still using the capabilities of the train, but it's kind of abstracting it out so that it knows what its top speed is. It knows what tractive effort curve it can pull. So you can still find the AI trains, for example, if you put too many wagons behind them, freight cars, whatever, then they might not get up a hill. Whereas in previous, so like in Train Simulator, for example, you can set up an AI train with a little 040 tank engine and 6,000 wagons, and it will make its way up that hill just fine, because it's an averaging. It's using the speed, just using the speed. So it's not quite completely basic, but it is very simplistic.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of that is you've got, you don't want to be having all this advanced physics running on, because you wouldn't get many AI trains running around.
Yeah. Now, I saw a question about our relationship with Rivet. Now, I'm sorry, I forgot. I can't find who asked the question. But basically, our relationship with third parties, full stop, has actually changed a lot over the past few months compared to what it was, hasn't it, Matt?
Yes. So, one of the things we are sort of re-looking at how we work with third-party developers, in terms of how we provide advice and guidance, how we measure, where things are at, based on our own experiences, and also some of the, the hard learning that's been done recently.
Yeah.
So that, because previously we've always taken a relatively hands-off approach with third parties, because we want third parties to be able to express themselves to be
Yeah.
different to Dovetail, because that's part of the character of what's the difference between a Rivet product versus a Dovetail product or a Skyhook product, for example. And so it's we didn't want to interfere with that process. But what's actually happened here is it's possibly gone too far the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so, it's like sometimes we're going to have to be more, step up more, provide more guidance and help, where we know it's the wrong decision or the wrong thing to do, or it's not necessarily even that there's a decision to do this. Sometimes it is just a not appreciating the importance of A versus B. And making sure that we can pass on our experience to the third party. So we're working a lot more closely
Yes.
with third party developers, giving them more access to the team. They've always had access directly to the dev teams, but they'll have more access to that now than they've had previously. Again, we'll provide more guidance at sort of like a production level. Because one of the things, for example, we want to do now is actually have one of the production team monitor and be a part of that process, so as part of providing that feedback back to the product. So the idea would be to get a better product quicker. So this is not about making it harder to develop or getting in the way or stifling creativity. It's just about helping make sure that we can that everybody is doing the best product we can.
Yeah, I would say that one thing I've definitely noticed is that the communication is there's much more of it going on now than even say 6 months ago. Everybody's willing to help each other, and I think it's very clear that the relationship has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I was on a call with some people at Rivet a couple of days ago, in fact, and we were going through the Arosa thing and some other stuff that they're working on, and it was a great call. They're a really great bunch, and they're all keen to do, to release the best products they can, and so we're working together. We'll get there.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's have a look. There's been obviously a few questions come in while we were talking about Rivet and third parties. Jack said, "What's going on with the Scenario Planner 2.0?" So currently we actually have no updates on that yet. When we do, we will let you know. Strike Eagles asked, any progress report on the sound issues on Xbox?
No, this is where you get bad looping, for example, or some audio defects in there. No, we don't have any update for that. This is where it's because it's using the old X Audio engine. I say old, it's the default one that Unreal uses. One of the projects we have on a slightly longer term thing, because it's a big job, is to switch over to the OGG system. However, that's going to negate a bunch of memory gains because OGG files are bigger. So we need to be a little bit careful that we don't step back on the layers and substitution and memory front while we're doing that, or at least if we do that, we need to make sure we go in with our eyes wide open. So it's a change that we're going to make at some point, and do some testing, and then see where we end up with and what the output is, and also verify it fixes the issue, because it might not. But the feedback we've had so far from talking to other studios is it probably should resolve the issue.
Back to the topic of third parties, Liam Eds said, does Adam have any responsibility now for third party routes? Adam's definitely working closer now, isn't he, with third parties?
Yeah, Adam and his team will be working a lot more closely. I'm not sure about responsibility for third-party routes, but that's kind of a joint thing. The production team will be responsible for making sure, and Adam's a key part of that. But he won't be on his own. We'll be supporting him.
Emmanuel Lucas said, are there any plans on doing Dutch routes? There's a huge train sim fan base in the Netherlands. I mean, any plans?
I'm going to give a bingo one out for free. It's not on the roadmap. No, there are no plans to do Dutch routes. Going into new territories is always a challenge, not just because we need to get as good at understanding how the trains work and signalling and operations as you do. and you've spent all your life learning, getting your knowledge where it is. We have to get there a lot faster, and our team are good at that stuff, but it's not a 5-minute job. And then we've got to start, think about the scenery, starting from pretty much from scratch to get the right trees and the right architecture and so forth in. So it becomes very expensive to enter a new country. But then the problem you've got is having done, so we currently generally do UK, US and Germany. If we added another country to that cycle, then there'd be less going out to those territories and still only one more new country. So if you then did another new country, does that go, so if you did Netherlands by 1 year or one time, and then you did a different country the next time, when would Netherlands get their next DLC? So having got their first DLC, they might not see another one for years. And that's not a good offering either. So certainly, we are expanding the teams so that we're hiring. If you go onto our website at dovetailgames.com, you'll see in the careers section we have a huge range of vacancies up at the moment, and I invite you to review the site and apply, because we even offer UK remote working. So if you're in the UK, you don't even have to move and come into the office. You can do it all from home. So it's it's a really fantastic opportunity to come and join the team. But sorry, lost my train of thought.
All right. You were talking about hiring people.
Yeah.
Working from home.
Yeah, I remember that bit.
No, it's a gone.
I went off on a branch line and forgot
where
the main one was. Someone sent me a map. I do this regularly. Yeah. What was the question? That might help me get back to it.
I don't know. It was ages ago now. Yeah, I was just sort of letting you go with it. We'll come back to it if you remember. How's that sound?
Choo-choo, off goes Matt's train of thought. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Right, let's...
Other countries. So we're expanding the team, and we're adding more people into what we're doing. That may in the future allow us the opportunity to roll in another country or two, because there's a passion and an enthusiasm for doing that. It's not that we don't want to, but what you want to do is thinking about not just fire and forget one product. You want to actually think about how you create how you involve that community in that region, rather than just fire and forget one product and move on. Now, the French route that we did was mostly done because it was a TGV route, a high-speed train, rather than specifically because it was a French route. So that was slightly anomalous. But I think that the longer-term solution to additional countries rests with third-party developers, if I'm honest, because the people, you developers who live and know your railways in those areas, are the experts in that thing. So you'll find that the best Dutch route will be built by Dutch developers. So Dutch developers, come talk to us, join the third party program. I'm being completely serious.
No, I believe you.
Same for every other region out there. It's as this phrase goes, be the change you seek. And it is seriously about come and talk to us if you want to make stuff, and we'll help you make that happen.
That's great, and that's a great way to sort of end the discussion of third parties, because it sort of rounds it off nicely there. So yeah, come join us basically. Now I think we've covered pretty much everything this roadmap had to offer, because obviously, like I said, it wasn't a particularly large one, should we say, with regards to changes today. But we do have something nice to share for the end of this stream, don't we, Matt?
Oh, we do.
We have a surprise. So we have a nice little video to share with you before we go. But is there anything else you'd like to say before we head off?
I don't think so. Other than thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Please keep giving your feedback and on the forums and in support tickets. And if you get crash reports, send them in to us.
Yeah.
They are very valuable, and they help us understand. And it gives us don't even be afraid. Oh, I've seen someone on the forum has already reported that. You report it as well, because if
Yes.
we see one report in for an issue, then maybe only one person's found it. If 50 reports come in, then oh my word, then there's an
Yeah.
immediate different reaction to that. So send us any issues that you're having. Don't be afraid about over
Never be
sending or
afraid.
anything like that.
Yeah.
Send us your stuff, send us your feedback, so that we can look into it. We're all keen to help you play the game as good as well as we can. And do we see the Unreal crashes as well, Liam? No, I don't think they come to us. What you need to do there is find the crash log folder in where your save games are stored, zip it up and send it to us.
Yeah.
Yourself, and then that'll tell us everything we need. Otherwise than that, keep enjoying the game, and we'll see you on Thursday, I think.
Yeah, you'll see them on Thursday, but you can join Jamie tomorrow for the 187 preview of Train Simulator. So, good night from me.
Good night. Take care, everyone.
Hope you all enjoy the video.